What we're talking about right now, it's the ban of money from Brussels for helping the economy of Hungary. All these things that are not happy with the European politicians, what's going on with the freedom in Hungary, in all other corruption cases and all of this. And what can the consequences be in the nearest future because of, I'll quote one expert, the Article 7. It's a procedure is the European Union's strongest possible tool, needs to be used in the case of Hungary because a risk of a systematic breach of European values still stands, says Vera Jourova, Vice President of the European Commission of Values and Transparency. She said it in Brussels, and I will tell our audiences that this Article 7 of a Treaty of European Union is a procedure in the treaties to suspend certain rights from a member of state. While rights can be suspended, there is no mechanism to expel a state from the union. So, will it be used, this Article 7, and what consequences for the state and for the people of Hungary it may affect?
We have consequences today also, because in Hungary every day has strikes from pedagogical workers because they don't have enough wages via European Union, and after that this crisis will be more deep, I think. By the way, I think it's a Brexit, same as Brexit, is impossible in Hungary, because Hungary is not can be functionated without European Union. But I hope the next maybe months, next year, Hungarian opposition can be more stronger, and it will be more difficulty work for Orban regime, because this regime, according to Freedom House, 57 without any democracy, and 43%, it's same as a view of the democracy, not more.
It's very interesting to understand what's the power of opposition in Hungary, and yet still I wanted to ask you about the voice of the president. We never reminds in our programs about, mention in our programs about the president, but Hungary has a president, and she is Katalin Novak. Does she has her voice? Because in comparison from what I saw in Georgia lately, I visited Georgia and I had the chance to speak to Salome Zorobishvili, and I understood that she had a voice, but she lost it in some special time. So now it's very difficult to oppose the leading party in Georgia, and they have a mess in the politician system right now. So what about Hungary? What about the voice of the president? And what about the voice of opposition parties?
Unfortunately, Ksenia, voice of president in Hungary, it's only a play, not more. Not more. It's because she's 100% women of Mr. Orban, and this statement from Katalin Novak not more than political plays. But with the opposition, the situation totally different. Because opposition in Hungary, unfortunately, not so strong, but this opposition has a loud voice in parliament. First of all, young politicians, same as a party of Momentum, which totally approved and totally helped Ukrainians in this war against Russia, and a lot of these political movements visited Kyiv under missile attacks, and I also met with these politicians, and they have a totally different mindset than Mr. Orban. They totally approved European values, totally approved European laws, and this political force has representatives in European Parliament, and all times support Europeans to change Orban policy.
To make this story short, with the entire politics in Hungary, are there any freedom of speech, for example, on the television and the media? And is it helpful for the opposition to stay strong and not letting Viktor Orban make the democratic country authoritarian?
One example. One time I was invited in a Hungarian TV channel which controlled by Mr. Orban, and it was planned for maybe 15 minutes speech, but I have only 3 minutes. After that, when I stated that Mr. Orban provided shame policy against Ukraine, I was immediately disconnected. And after that, I've never been invited to these TV channels. Unfortunately, 99% of Hungarian media under Orban's rules, and we cannot speak about free media in Hungary, unfortunately.
There's a lot of signs what was going on in Russia in the beginning of rising of Putin. I'm sorry to comparison with this, but it's obvious from what you are saying. So it's interesting. How many time will it take to Hungary to become an authoritarian country, but still being the member of NATO and still being the member of European Union? Because the politic of Orban, with all this negative, is still allows him to dictate European Union some important things, such which countries to accept or not to accept to European Union or NATO. This is our next question. I will add some more information and we'll discuss it with you, okay? Or you want to put...
Okay, sorry, thank you. But I would like to tell the next thing. Mr. Orban has one big similarity with Putin. You know what's this biggest similarity? As you know, the greatest tragedy, according to Putin, the biggest tragedy for him, the breakup of the Soviet Union in 20th century. Same as in Mr. Orban, as he said, the greatest, biggest, hugest tragedy for Hungarian nation and for Europe, it's a Trianon Treaty, 1920, when Hungary lost 2/3 of their territory, Hungarian kingdom, but Mr. Orban never mentioned that this kingdom has not more than 50% of Hungarians. Almost 50% of this Hungarian kingdom were national minority, and Hungarian kingdom that time provided strong assimilation policy against national minority. That it's fact.
Actually, all these imperialistic ambitions of some politicians in the modern world look so archaic. And on the example, what's going on now with the Russian Federation, it should be very, very good example for him, let's say, okay, for Orban, just to look what's going on with the imperialistic ambitions of Putin.